So Guild Wars 2 went ahead and dropped the Elite Specialization trailer for the Troubadour, the Luminary, and the Galeshot, and we're going to take a deeper look into this. If you are new to the channel, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 content. Alright, so I've already gone ahead and taken a look at these, and I wanted to kind of compile my thoughts as I was walking through this. So first we have the Troubadour, which is of course going for the Mesmer. And we see that the Troubadour ends up getting, it looks like three different almost musical instruments. And it's almost like they have like weapon kits. That was kind of like my first thought, but then I also kind of viewed it as like, what happens if those musical instruments, think very much like how the firebrand is, where like the, every time that you enter into that particular music instrument, and you put it onto a cooldown, you can only go into each one for a little bit, you get a new set of abilities. Very much how the firebrand is working. Now, what they talk about here is as you are going through, you build up music, you build up like musical notes, and then you can use it as a crescendo. Watch the crescendo be kind of like the shatter, almost like the fifth ability. I could see them doing 3 different musical instruments and then having them as a shatter ability, or their quote-unquote shatter ability is the crescendo. Now, I'm not 100% on that, because in these trailers which you're seeing for the Troubadour, if you've noticed, there is no clones. No clones popping up. None whatsoever. Just musical instruments blasting away. So that's what kind of leads me to believe that it's actually, I'm thinking very similar to how they played the Virtuoso for End of Dragons, where essentially you're summoning the daggers floating above your head, and then you use the daggers for your shatter abilities. I'm thinking that it's going to be very similar to that they're using the musical instruments as like a second weapon kit that builds up music so that they can use the crescendo, which acts as kind of like their big bang, or their shatter, I should say. Yeah, so it's like, if you're listening, so it's like, okay, so flustering your allies, that almost looks like dazed. Like this character right here looks dazed, right? That seems like it's almost like mind rack, where it's actually dealing damage, because it strums 3 times. And then the harp almost seems like it's like an AoE heal, which the crescendo is just this large AoE, and it seems like it heals allies or defends allies. I'm guessing pops some kind of buff or boon onto the allies and damages enemies. That's kind of where my thought is. At first, I thought it was like maybe a weapon kit. Maybe that's kind of where my thought process went first. And it still very well could be, but the only problem that I have is that there's no clones. There's no clones being shown for the Troubadour here, so it's making me think that it's more like Virtuoso vibes, where there is no clones to manage. You're managing your quote-unquote musical notes, and you're using them in a crescendo. Now, granted, we're going to see all this on Friday, so. Now, this one is really interesting, the Galeshot. So, my initial thought for this was like, when I first heard or saw the symbol and I saw that it was going to Ranger, I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're having a focus around like the short bow. Maybe that's the focus. What I'm actually leaning more towards now is that this is like a secondary profession skill that can be utilized, because you saw the pet. So it's not like the Soul Beast, where the pet's getting melded in and taken away. This, I would almost venture to believe, is very much how like the Hollowsmith is, where the Hollowsmith can go into Photon Forge, right? And that's their kind of profession mechanic that they can do. I'm wondering if this is going to be very similar to the Hollowsmith in that regard, where you're able to switch into that weapon kit, the wind bow, or the gale bow, the gale shot bow, whatever you want to call it, and use all these different abilities as you have built up enough whispers, which towards the end of this, they talk about it. They have some cool shots, right?
A testament to the magical abilities of these skilled Tengu. With your cyclone bow summoned,
Tengu mentioned.
Gain feathers over time.
Gain feathers over time.
Use these feathers to bluster your enemy, firing 3 arrows rapidly,
and you shoot them rapidly, dealing damage. It has a whole toolkit that's available for it, so it makes me think that it's a weapon kit, I should say, or a weapon swap kind of thing. Listen.
Let the wind carry their last breath away.
It's almost like you're building up feathers. So feathers in this analogy to the Hollowsmith would be almost like you're doing your heat gauge in comparison. So it's like as you're damaging and doing stuff like this, maybe it's an inverse kind of thing. You build up feathers as you're using your abilities. And then it like maybe it's an expenditure. So it's like as you're using your normal abilities, you build up to be able to use the Gale Bow. And then while you're in the Gale Bow, that's when it starts to kind of bring itself back down and the cooldown comes down. That's kind of where my head's leaning at with this. I really like the aspect of this that you get to keep your pet. A ranger, to me, you have to have your pet. But then two, what's really interesting is that if this is a separate weapon kit or a profession mechanic that you swap into like Photon Forge, it would be amazing that you could utilize this with other weapon skills. So like one of my favorites, of course, weapons for the ranger is the greatsword. The greatsword is just, it's a lot of fun to play with as a ranger. So you can use that and then like, disengage, rolling into your Galeshot bow, hit them with that, and then with the longbow. Now, the standard longbow weapons. Now, I don't know how that's going to work. We're probably going to find out more, but initial thoughts, I'm thinking I really like this one, actually. I really like this because it's not only including like the Tengu, which, again, Tengu mentioned, but it's a different flavor onto the ranger and has a heavier emphasis on the archery, which, again, is one of the reasons that I love playing ranger. It's cool that you can throw axes. It's cool that you can use swords and daggers and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm not throwing any hate. I like a bow. With a ranger, you have a pet, you have a bow. That's my aesthetic. So it's using Radiant Flame, which is cool, is because it kind of reminds me of like Faux Fire, right?
Call up the Radiant Shroud to gain access to the power bestowed upon you.
We're probably going to go ahead and keep the virtues, but this also almost seems like it's like an activatable ability that allows you to go crazy for a couple of seconds with these different abilities.
Protect yourself with your shield and daze your enemies with a quick bash.
Defense, shield block, and then a shield bash. That might be the same ability or two separate abilities.
Hammer down upon them as you grant boons to your allies with the hammer's presence. Take a stance against the damages done to your allies as you heal and
that's a staff. It looks better. It's the Luminary seems interesting because it looks like it's focused, centered around like almost like again, all these elite specializations that we've seen thus far have almost seemed like they're a separate weapon kit, like almost like you swapped into it and your profession mechanic is a brand new set of skills that you can use on a timer, and they have like some kind of cooldown or some kind of like, we'll say, energy gauge that you have to manage. Upon editing this video, I just actually came to the realization of Radiant Shroud being very similar to the Necromancer's Death Shroud and the Harbinger Shroud and the Reaper Shroud and the Spectre Shadow Shroud. It took me a while to get this, but it sounds like the Luminary is actually going to get a shroud type of ability where they gain some form of life force or radiant force or something like that, and they use it as a short-term cooldown, very similar to what you would see for the shroud swapping of like the Necromancer or the Spectre. I'm not sure how this one works. Luminary, I still have a lot of questions because it looks like it's like all around, because it looks like it's damage. It looks like I would say Luminary ends up being more supportive in that regard because they talked about dazing enemies. It talked about blocking and bashing foes and stuff like that, healing allies, and then, of course they have to have a damage ability of some sort. But it's interesting to see how they're doing this.
Done to your allies as you heal and
because you can heal, and I wonder how that's this little guy, this little floaty boy here is going to work. Maybe that's like that's going to assist within the gauge, or I'm not sure. I haven't had any really good thoughts. It kind of reminds me of the Jade Sphere. So yeah, that's essentially my thoughts. That's kind of where I'm at with this new trailer. Lots of really cool things, lots of exciting things. Now, we're going to find out more here in a couple of days, but initially I'm very excited. I'm hyped. Obviously, I had to make this video to talk about how hyped I am. If you are getting into Guild Wars 2 and you are just trying to catch up and you don't even know how to prepare for Visions of Eternity, the new expansion that comes out this October, you can click this video here, which is going to take you to all the steps that I'm doing. I've already completed a handful, but the things that I'm doing in preparation for this new expansion. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.